Hi, Cary here with TriStar Home Loans. Thanks for joining me once again for one of my videos. And today we're going to be talking about a gift of equity transaction. I'm going to go into 4 different elements of that type of purchase transaction. Before we get started, just remember that you can follow me on my Instagram. You can also check us out on our TriStar Facebook page. And let's get into how this gift of equity works. So what is a gift of equity? Essentially, gift of equity is you buying a home from a relative and they've built up enough equity in that property that they're able to give you part of that equity as your down payment, so you don't need to come in with your own down payment and sometimes closing costs as well. Number one thing that you got to look out for if you're even thinking about doing this is the qualifications, what qualifications you would have as a buyer. And essentially, those would be the same as if you're buying any other home. 2 of the 3 main elements you still have to really look into. In other words, how's your credit? Your credit would still have to be good, just like buying any other home. And also, your debt to income ratio would have to be good. So in other words, your income would have to be able to support the mortgage payment and have to be able to support the debts that you have on a monthly basis. So number 2, I would say, what are the benefits of a gift of equity situation? When you're thinking from the buyer's perspective, it's great for the buyers because the buyers aren't coming up with a down payment. That one's pretty obvious. So you're not having to come up with a down payment, which is one of the hugest issues when buying a home, is trying to figure out how you're going to save up that down payment. So from the buyer's perspective, no down payment is the biggest benefit. Now, I always say these transactions have to be a win-win. Right? It can't be all buyer's benefit, can't be all seller's benefit, or it really wouldn't work out. So you're looking for a win-win type of transaction. So we talked about the buyer, now how about the seller side? The seller should really know before entering in on this type of transaction how much they currently owe on the property if they have a mortgage, and then secondly, how much do they generally want to net when this is all said and done? When the transaction is done, how much do they want to net? For some sellers, they might not want to net anything. If they're essentially selling this house to their kids, they might just want to pay off their existing mortgage and not make any money, but that's not always the case. Some sellers may need $50,000 because they're moving into another home and they need a down payment. So again, win-win exchange. We're looking for benefit for both sides. Number 3 would be the effects to your property taxes. It's important that you do your research. I don't want to give you my full 2 cents on this because these things are changing, and even right now as I'm doing this video, there's some changes to some of the propositions that will affect parent-to-child exclusion of tax changes. So do your research on the property taxes, and that's on both sides, whether you're the seller or the buyer. Do your research on how this will affect property taxes. Okay, and I'd say the last important element to think about when you're doing a gift of equity is to think about whether you're going to utilize a realtor or not when you're selling the home. If you're going to use a realtor, you want to make sure that you're being upfront with them that you're doing a gift of equity exchange, and so that they can set up the correct paperwork and the correct structure for those numbers. If you're not utilizing a realtor, you'll still need to utilize either an escrow title combination in order to structure the transaction correctly. It's very important that you structure this correctly up front so that the figures and the estimates that are given to you in the very beginning are very close to the result that you get when you're closing the transaction. And that's always the case. So it's important that you set it up correctly. In closing, I just want to thank you for joining me once again. Make sure you check out some of our older videos on YouTube if you get time. Follow me on Instagram or check out our Facebook page. Until next video, great seeing you. Stay safe out there. Thanks.